It was really enjoying life. Um, Hi there, this is Izzy, and this week I've got the pleasure of working with a couple of my larger plants. So on the right hand side here we've got the No ID, which is possibly a Cambria jungle monarch. It's got lovely yellow flowers with brown spots and a kind of musky honey scent when it comes out. So that one is a gorgeous plant, very reliable flowerer at the moment, once every year. And on the left, we've got the Maxillaria rufescens, one that's been with me since I came back from France, that I got in France actually. Really lovely plant there. But what do they need? Well, the Cambria jungle monarch is in dire need of a repot. The growths on this one are really quite large every single time, and the newest one is hitting the side of the pot. I'm not particularly happy with that. We've also got a second direction of growth in here that is coming into conflict with the other growths in this pot. So I'm going to have to get it out, have a look, and possibly consider separating this into more than one plant, because this is getting too close to the side and that one might cause conflict later on. So I just need to pull it apart, see what's happening, and decide what I'd like to do. It's a similar story with the Maxillaria rufescens. The Maxillaria rufescens has grown fantastically since I got it. So the pseudo bulb size has basically doubled from these, the original size bulb, to these more recent growths. But every time it's grown a new bulb, it has grown multiple offshoots. So you can see each one of these. This one's got 2 young bulbs coming off it here. This one's got 2 young bulbs coming off it here. These have each got 2 coming out the sides, and it's about to come up the edge of the pot, and in some cases might really squeeze into other pseudo bulbs and push apart this clump. So I've got to do something with this. There's too much in the terms of plant in this pot. Another thing is I water this one, it goes dry really quickly, so the root system's very happy, but that suggests it's quite dense in there. So I've got to do something with these two. I don't quite know what yet, but the first thing I'll do is get them out the pots. Well, with the No ID possible Cambria jungle monarch, I have taken it out the pot and discovered an absolutely enormous root system. I am a bit reluctant to disturb it. So even though I could split these apart maybe, I'm kind of tempted to just leave it and see what it does. The thing I have done though, you might notice I've taken off the really big old back bulb, just one on its own. So I was looking at it and thinking, well, if I'm trying to get it back into a pot and leave the space in that pot on this side where I've got the new growths, that back bulb is just going to get in my way. So I took it off, not the cleanest way, I just had to pull it, which isn't great. I'd normally like to chop it, but these roots are so dense that I couldn't see a way in at the time. Anyway, I think the next thing to do is see whether there's any last bits of medium that I can get out, perhaps from the centre here, and then pot this up as one big plant. So I'll pot up that old bulb, see whether anything comes of it, and that should do. One down, one to go. Goodness me, this is a monster. There's a lot of living moss in here and shed loads of roots. With this one, I'm kind of tempted to find a good place to cut the rhizome and then try and pull it apart. Hopefully it will separate whilst I am trying to separate the growths. This was potted in a mix of bark and sphagnum moss, and I don't know whether I slightly regret that now. This is actually pretty difficult to get out. I mean, it's loved it in terms of the amount of moisture it can get, but it's a bit awkward in terms of repotting because I've got lots of stuff all around these roots and it's been here for so long and it's hard to sort out the good from the bad. Pulling this, but I don't actually know how to pull it. It's just so tangled. In a sense, I just don't know what to do. I have managed to separate this, but that was a bit violent. Basically, don't do what I've just done. It's a bad idea. See, I've lost a lot of roots. That's not good practice. There's evidence of growth everywhere. So if we look here, we've got evidence of a new growth coming there. This has already got 2 directions of growth, the third that I've managed to break off here. This one's got 2 directions of growth, perhaps another little one down there. It's just covered in growth and growth directions. I'm going to have to decide what I do with this plant going forward because this kind of level of growth is a little bit unsustainable. Some of these smaller ones I will pop in smaller pots and see what happens. I'll try and put the directions of growth or possible directions of growth towards the outside, but in reality I don't know where these might go next, so we'll just have to see when they start to grow. And if I put them in small pots now, I can just drop them on if they recover. I'm going to avoid putting them in that mixture of bark and sphagnum this time because that was so difficult later on, even though it gave them the water that they wanted. So I think this time I'm going to put some of them in bark and some of them in sphagnum moss and see how they do. Because I don't want them all in sphagnum, I don't want them all in bark, and I don't want a repeat of last time. Well, that turned out to be one simple repot and one rather traumatic repot. I'm not entirely sure what the Maxillaria rufescens is going to make of this. That was a bit extreme, much more extreme than I have done and was hoping for. In retrospect, I should have just dropped it on, a little bit like I did for the possible Cambria jungle monarch. Lesson learned, maybe? Drop on more than split, but I'll have to learn to split my plants because otherwise I'll just have a house brimming with really large specimen orchids. It's a delicate balance between splitting orchids and causing them trauma and between dropping them on and potentially leaving media in there which is going to give the orchid diseases further down the line. So I really don't know what the best thing to have done here was, but it's fair to say that I've got examples of both and I can see how they go. Well, that's it from me this week. I hope you've learnt something from this video. I certainly have. If you've liked this video, give it a like. If you'd like to hear more, just subscribe to the channel and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.